Hello and welcome once again. This is Natty Cash, and we are back with our Imperialism series. We are at part 14, and we're down below 100 teams now. I think, yeah, we're below 100 teams at this point. We're getting down, narrowing it down one by one. And again, anytime that you guys have questions about, well, why is a team not played yet? Well, that's just the randomness of the spinner itself. Still got many teams left on the board here, and yeah, hopefully we're gonna narrow down this even further. And over the next few videos, we should have a final champion here. So let's get ourselves going right away here. We see the wheel here. 89 entries left. Who is going to get some action first? It looks like we're going to see Kennesaw State in action to start off the video. And let's see what direction they're going to try to expand in. Looks like they're trying to go up to the northwest, which means Kennesaw State are going to take on Chattanooga. And it is Kennesaw State that gets the win here. They took an early lead. There were a couple times where Chattanooga tried to close the gap, but Kennesaw State had enough to beat and get the chance to expand. And Kennesaw State gets to expand a little bit, push their way up into Tennessee, take a little bit more of Georgia, and they stay on the board. And we are back to the wheel. Let's take a spin. Where are we off to next? So we're going to see Kansas Jayhawks in action. And what direction are they going to try to expand in? Looks like they're going to head out east, which means they're going to try to take a big chunk out of the Midwest by taking on the St. Louis Billikens. And in what I would think is a huge upset, St. Louis beats the Jayhawks. And they were actually leading the entire game. Kansas tried to pull up as close as they could, but St. Louis held on for another victory. And now to see Kansas off the board really gives an opportunity for some of these other teams to take over the Midwest. And maybe St. Louis is one of the top teams that need to be in contention in this area. Well, we're back to the wheel. Let's see where we're headed to next. And now we're going to see Louisiana Tech in action. And what direction are they going to try to expand in? Looks like they're going to try to go mostly north, maybe a little bit northeast. And from where we see Louisiana Tech going northeast, still hits them up against Little Rock. And it is Louisiana Tech that gets to expand once again. After taking the lead early in the first half, they never relinquished that and ended up getting a pretty comfortable win in the end. And as it is, Louisiana Tech expand even further north into Arkansas. But we are back to the wheel once more. Let's see where we're headed off to next. Looks like we're going to see Duke in action next. And despite us being so far in the series, this is actually Duke's first time expanding. And they're going to go into the Southwest, which means we're going to have the rivalry of rivalries here, where Duke is going to take on UNC. And in a hard-fought battle, with many lead changes, it was UNC that does come away with the victory. Back and forth the whole game, and that's what you'd expect out of a rivalry game. And it is UNC that gets the victory. And UNC continues to stay alive as Duke is removed from the board. UNC is still one of the remaining teams left in Carolina, although there's still many left to be decided. But we're back to the spinner. Let's see where we are off to next. And it looks like we're going to see the Omaha Mavericks in action. And what direction are they going to try to expand in? And it looks like they're going to try to go directly west, which directly west for them means going up against Kansas State. And it is the Wildcats that get the victory. Omaha was actually leading for a good chunk of the first half, but Kansas State kind of swung it in their favor in the second half and went along for the victory. And Kansas State has another win on the board, keeps himself in the game. But where are we headed off to next? Looks like we're going to see Rutgers in action again. We've seen them involved a few times throughout the series. They're going to try to go down south, a little bit to the southwest, which means Rutgers are going to take on Princeton. And in one of the tightest matchups you could see here, probably over a dozen lead changes throughout the process, it is Princeton that gets the last laugh and gets the victory, a 1-point victory to get their first chance to expand. And now Princeton has a significant piece of the state of New Jersey and gets their first expansion. But we are back to the wheel again to see where we're off to next. And it looks like we're going to see UNC back in action again. And what direction are they going to try to expand in? Looks like they're headed off to the west, which means they're going to take on Charlotte for their piece of land here to expand, get a better dominance of North Carolina. And in an amazing upset, it is the Charlotte 49ers that get the victory here. A tight game, back and forth, with lead changes all throughout. But in the end, it was the 49ers that get to expand this time. Just incredible. And now with North Carolina gone out of the state, this whole area is up for grabs for anyone that wants to try to take it. Charlotte maybe is one of the ones that's going to be able to do that. So let's see where we're off to next. Looks like this time we're going to see the Hampton Pirates in action. And which direction are they going to try to go? It looks like they're trying to go to the northwest, which in most cases would have taken them against any direction, almost would have taken them against North Carolina Central, but Northwest still does that. So Hampton has to take on North Carolina Central in order to expand. And it is the Eagles of North Carolina Central that once again get a victory. In the end, it was a pretty comfortable victory, and they expand once more. And North Carolina Central get to expand once again, pushing further and getting a little bit more of the coast of Virginia. Back to the wheel to see where we're off to next. It looks like this time we're going to see South Carolina in action. And what direction is South Carolina going to try to go in? Looks like they're trying to head due west, which when we look at South Carolina, there's a lot of teams here that haven't had a chance to attack yet. But South Carolina going due west is going to take on Georgia State. But it is Georgia State that once again gets a victory. They were down in the first half, but when they took over after that point, they sailed forward for a 20-point victory. And they get to expand further as well. And now we see Georgia State getting a nice big expansion as they go right through the middle of South Carolina and push their way out to the coast. But we're back to the wheel to see who's going to get a chance to expand next. It looks like we're going to see Portland State in action. Now, they really only have a couple possible opponents to go against, but with them pushing to the east means that Portland State are going to take on Sacramento State. And it is Portland State that end up getting the victory. We had a close game for a while, and then Sacramento State had a pretty big lead, but the Portland State Vikings crawled their way back and then got themselves a lead and got themselves the victory. And they're going to be rewarded with a huge chunk of land. And the reign of Sacramento State along this west coast is over, as the Northwest is now belonging to Portland State, as they get a nice big chunk of the Pacific Northwest. And we are back to the wheel. Let's see where we're headed off to next. And it looks like we're going to see the South Carolina State Bulldogs. This will be their chance to expand for the first time. So they're going to try to go north, which for South Carolina State, that means taking on Georgia State, who recently took out South Carolina Gamecocks. And Georgia State once again gets a victory. They took the lead early on and never really relinquished it, earning themselves another victory. And Georgia State once again takes a nice big chunk, and they're really making themselves a claim against the state of South Carolina. Well, we're back to the wheel. Let's see where we're going to next. And we are going to see Kansas State in action once again. And what direction are they going to try to expand in? Looks like they're going to try to go out to the northwest, which means they're going to take on the behemoth of landmass that is Utah Valley. And wouldn't you know it, Utah Valley defend their land and beat the Kansas State Wildcats. And actually, they were leading for most of it and never let go of that lead. That is an incredible victory for the Wolverines. And now, Kansas State is off the board as Utah Valley expand their land. So now all of Nebraska is united, and they've pushed themselves into Kansas as well. But we're back to the wheel to see where we're off to next. It looks like we're going to see North Carolina Central in action again. And what direction are they going to try to expand in? Looks like they're headed down to the southwest, which means for them, they're going to take on the Charlotte 49ers that recently got a win. And whoever wins this matchup will get a nice controlling interest of the state. And it is the 49ers of Charlotte that are going to get the victory here. They were winning most of the game here. North Carolina came within 1 point in the second half, but Charlotte was able to take it away and get the victory. And now Charlotte have control of the entire east coast of North Carolina and got more than 50% of the entire state, and have pushed further into Virginia as well. But we are back to the wheel to see where we're off to next. And it looks like UMass Lowell are going to be in action next. And we might have to spin this a couple times to see what direction they're going to go in. We're going to treat that as being south along the coast, which means UMass Lowell are then going to take on Yukon. And it is the Huskies of Yukon that get the victory. They took the lead and had the lead basically the entire time, leading to a big piece of land for them to take over. And Yukon now have a controlling interest in northeastern United States here. But we're back to the wheel. Let's see what direction we're headed off to next. Looks like we're going to see Louisiana Tech in action again this video. And what direction are they going to try to expand? Looks like they're going to try to go south, where south, and it was tipping a little bit to the east, means that they have to take on the mighty Alabama to try to stay on the board. And it was the Crimson Tide that get the victory, an overwhelming victory in fact, to secure more land as they push further to becoming a big contender in this game. And it is Alabama that gets to take on a bit more land, and they actually push themselves up further into Louisiana, and now a good chunk into Arkansas as well. But we're back to the wheel to see where we're headed off to next. And we're going to see the Red Raiders of Texas Tech in action. And what direction are they going to try to expand into? Looks like they're headed up north, a little bit northeast, which means they are going to take on the Oklahoma Sooners. And in a tight game in the first half, turned out to be the Texas Tech victory, that they had a lead and they pushed that lead and got another victory under their belt, meaning they get to expand pretty mightily at this point. And now, look at how much land Texas Tech has. They've expanded, they've pushed all the way, got complete control of New Mexico, pushed their way into Arizona, Colorado, Kansas, and Oklahoma. What a crazy piece of land they now have. But we go back to the wheel to see where we're headed off to next. And this time, we're going to see the Portland Vikings in action again. It's very interesting to see some of these names pop up again and again, but we don't have some teams going for the first time. But Portland is going to try to expand east, which is going to cause the greatest clash of land mass thus far, as Portland State are going to take on Utah Valley to get controlling interest of basically, I don't know, probably 10 different states that are here. This is going to be a mighty matchup. And the winner is the Utah Valley U Wolverines. Now this was a close matchup, back and forth game, tight game. Portland State with a lead, or a reasonable lead in the second half, but it is Utah Valley and the Wolverines that will expand once again. And it is Utah Valley that now have full ownership over all of Nebraska, all of the Dakotas, all of Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, along with pieces in Colorado, Kansas, California, Nevada, Washington State. Incredible. They've got a huge chunk of land here. But we go back to the wheel to see where we're headed off to next. And it looks like we're going to have another one of our storylines, Sam Houston State, in action again. And let's see in what direction they're going to try to expand in. Looks like they're going to try to go north, which means Sam Houston is going to take on Texas A&M Commerce for more land to the east and to the north. And we see that Sam Houston State once again gets their chance to expand. There are a couple times where Texas A&M were close, but Sam Houston State never relinquished the lead in the second half and get another chance to expand. And now Sam Houston has taken a nice big chunk out of eastern Texas, pushed up into Oklahoma, into Arkansas, and further into Louisiana. But we're back to the lovely spinner to see where we're off to next. And we're going to see Pepperdine in action. And what direction will Pepperdine try to attack in? Looks like they're going to be going up the west coast, which means they're going to take on UC Santa Barbara to take a little bit of coastline. And it is UC Santa Barbara that gets the victory. They took a lead in the first half. Pepperdine did tie it up, but in the second half, Santa Barbara ran away with it and got themselves their first victory. And UC Santa Barbara gets their first bit of land here. Now for them, they're completely surrounded by Fresno State, so we'll see what happens when they're in action again next. But we'll spin the wheel again to see where we're off to next. Looks like we're headed to New York State, where we'll see Colgate in action. And let's see what direction we're going to try to expand in. Looks like they're going up to the northeast, which it is pretty darn close on where it lands, but I'm going to count that Colgate is actually pointing towards Dartmouth. So Colgate is going to try to attack Dartmouth. And it is Dartmouth that get the victory here. Very close game, with Dartmouth leading for a good portion of the first half. Second half, though, there's a lot more lead changes, and it is Dartmouth that do hold on for the 1-point victory. And it is Dartmouth that get to expand for the first time in this series. And we will do one more matchup here, see who's going to act next. And it looks like we've got Purdue going to try to expand. Now, what direction are they going to try to expand in? Looks like they're heading due north. Now, this is really hard to determine because I'm going to try to go from the middle of the logo straight due north, and for me, it feels like we actually hit the land of Purdue, Fort Wayne, instead of hitting Notre Dame. So we're going to say Purdue is going to take on Purdue, Fort Wayne. And it is the Boilermakers of Purdue that get the victory. Pretty early on, they got a significant lead and didn't let that up, giving them more land for them to expand into. And now Purdue expands further north, having almost complete control of Indiana, other than two other programs. And this here is our field of 68. A lot of surprising teams that have made it this far. There's a lot of teams that are falling under the radar because they haven't had to play yet, which may be to their advantage. But with 68 teams left, this is what our borders look like. And so please stay tuned and follow along for the last few videos, because as we're down to 68, we're going to be eliminating this down over the next 2 to 3 videos. And by the end, we'll have crowned victory for one of these college programs remaining. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.